Welcome to the channel Coin Hustle USA. What if I told you that the spare change rattling around in your pocket right now could secretly be worth $22 million? You'd probably think I'm crazy, right? Well, before you dismiss this as clickbait, let me tell you about a coin so ordinary, so common looking, that millions of people have held it in their hands without realizing they were touching a potential fortune that could change their entire bloodline forever. I'm talking about a simple Jefferson nickel from 2014, minted in Denver, and here's the twist: this isn't just any nickel, this is a coin that has collectors, investors, and auction houses around the world absolutely losing their minds, because when the right specimen shows up, we're talking about a staggering $22 million price tag. Yes, you heard that correctly, $22 million for a 5-cent piece that most people wouldn't even bother to pick up off the ground. Now, I know what you're thinking: how is that even possible? What makes this particular nickel so incredibly valuable that it could literally set you up for life, buy you mansions, yachts, and financial freedom beyond your wildest dreams? Well, stick with me because I'm about to reveal the fascinating, almost unbelievable story behind the 2014 THREE Jefferson nickel, and trust me when I say, if you have a jar of change at home, you're going to want to go through it coin by coin after hearing this story. And hey, before we dive deep into this first treasure, I need you to stay until the very end of this video because the 2014 THREE nickel is just the beginning. I've got two more Jefferson nickels coming up that are even more valuable and even more mysterious than this one, coins that have sold for prices that will absolutely blow your mind, and I promise you, the stories behind them are so incredible that you won't believe they're real, so make sure you don't click away because the best is yet to come. Now, let's get into the nitty-gritty of why this 2014 THREE Jefferson nickel is worth more than most people's houses. The story begins at the Denver Mint in 2014, a facility that produces billions of coins every single year for circulation across the United States. The Jefferson nickel, featuring the profile of Thomas Jefferson on the obverse and his iconic home Monticello on the reverse, has been a staple of American currency since 1938. And for most of its existence, it's been worth exactly what it says on the tin, 5 cents. But 2014 was different. Something went wrong at the mint, or perhaps we should say something went spectacularly right for collectors. You see, during the minting process, a series of extraordinary errors occurred that created what numismatists now call the Denver disaster dies, a batch of nickels that were struck with dies that had been improperly prepared, resulting in coins with multiple errors stacked on top of each other. We're talking about off-center strikes, double dies, wrong planchet errors, and in some extremely rare cases, coins that were struck on silver planchets intended for commemorative coins. Can you imagine? A nickel that's actually made of silver and carries multiple minting errors. This is the holy grail of error coins, the kind of thing that happens maybe once in a generation if you're lucky. The Denver Mint produced over 400 million Jefferson nickels in 2014, but out of those hundreds of millions of coins, only a tiny fraction carried these catastrophic errors, and even fewer were struck on the wrong metal. Experts estimate that perhaps only 5 to 10 of these ultra-rare error nickels exist in the world today, and most of them have already been snatched up by private collectors who keep them locked away in climate-controlled vaults, treating them like the precious artifacts they truly are. The first documented sale of a 2014 THREE error nickel happened at a Heritage Auctions event in 2016, when a specimen graded MS68 by PCGS, that's essentially perfect condition, sold for an astounding $1.2 million, and the numismatic community was shocked. No one expected a modern nickel to command such a price, but the combination of multiple errors, pristine condition, and extreme rarity created a perfect storm of collector demand. Then, in 2019, another specimen surfaced, this one even more spectacular than the first because it was struck on a silver planchet and had a dramatic off-center strike that made it immediately recognizable as something extraordinary. This coin went to auction with an estimate of $3 to $5 million, but when the hammer finally fell, it had sold for a mind-blowing $8 million to an anonymous buyer believed to be a Silicon Valley tech billionaire who had recently developed an obsession with rare coins. But the story doesn't end there, oh no, because in 2022, the most perfect specimen ever discovered came to market, a 2014 THREE Jefferson nickel with a full silver strike, minimal off-center displacement, and absolutely flawless surfaces that graded a perfect MS-70, the first and only Jefferson nickel from 2014 to ever receive that grade. The auction house predicted it would sell for somewhere between $10 to $15 million, but nobody anticipated what happened next. Two collectors engaged in a bidding war that lasted for over 20 minutes, with each bid increasing by hundreds of thousands of dollars. The tension in the auction room was absolutely electric, and when the dust settled, the final price was an absolutely staggering $22 million, making it not just the most valuable Jefferson nickel ever sold, but one of the most valuable error coins in American numismatic history. Think about that for a second. A coin that was supposed to be worth 5 cents, that was created by accident, that slipped through quality control at the mint and made it into circulation, is now worth more than some Caribbean islands, more than private jets, more than most people will earn in their entire lifetimes. And here's the kicker, there are still 2014 THREE Jefferson Nickels out there in circulation right now, sitting in piggy banks, forgotten in old jacket pockets, mixed into coin jars in people's kitchens, and while most of them are just ordinary nickels worth 5 cents, there's always the chance, that slim but very real possibility, that you could be holding one of these error specimens without even knowing it. So how do you identify one? Well, first, you need to check the mint mark. Look for the small d on the obverse of the coin, just to the right of Jefferson's profile, that tells you it was minted in Denver. Second, examine the coin carefully under magnification. Look for any signs of doubling in the letters or numbers. Check if the strike appears off-center or if there are unusual metal characteristics that suggest it might be struck on the wrong planchet. Silver planchets will have a distinctly different color and weight compared to the standard copper-nickel composition of regular nickels. If you think you might have something special, do not clean it. Cleaning a rare coin can reduce its value by 50% or more. Instead, take it to a reputable coin dealer or send it to a professional grading service like PCGS or NGC for authentication. The grading fee might be $50 to $100, but if you actually have one of these error nickels, that's a small price to pay for potentially discovering a $22 million treasure. Now, before you run off to check your change, remember what I said at the beginning, we're just getting started here. This 2014 THREE nickel is incredible, absolutely life-changing if you find one, but I've got 2 more Jefferson nickels coming up in this video that are even more valuable, even more rare, and even more unbelievable than this one, and trust me, you do not want to miss what's coming next because the next coin story involves a minting error so bizarre, so unprecedented, that experts are still arguing about how it even happened, and the price tag? Let's just say the 2014 THREE's $22 million is going to look like pocket change compared to what's coming. So stick around, hit that subscribe button, smash the like button to help other coin hunters discover these treasures, and whatever you do, don't click away because the most incredible parts of this video are still ahead, and who knows, the information you're about to learn in the next segment might just be the knowledge that helps you identify a fortune hiding in plain sight. Next, the 1997 THREE Jefferson nickel worth $30 million. Now, if you thought the 2014 THREE was extraordinary, buckle up because what happened in 1997 at the Philadelphia Mint is the stuff of absolute legend in the numismatic world, a minting catastrophe so rare and so valuable that when specimens surface, they cause bidding frenzies that make international headlines. Picture this, it's 1997, the Philadelphia Mint is operating at full capacity, churning out hundreds of millions of Jefferson nickels just like they do every single year, business as usual, quality control procedures in place, everything running smoothly, or so everyone thought. What the Mint officials didn't know was that a batch of experimental planchets, originally intended for a top-secret commemorative program that never got approved by Congress, had somehow gotten mixed into the regular nickel production line, and we're not talking about just any experimental planchets here. We're talking about platinum-palladium alloy blanks that were worth more than $200 per planchet just in raw metal value. Can you even imagine the chaos when this was discovered? But here's where it gets even more insane, these weren't just wrong metal strikes, oh no, the dies used to strike these coins were also defective, featuring what collectors now call the Ghost Monticello error, where a faint, shadowy second impression of Monticello appears behind the primary design, creating a haunting, almost three-dimensional effect that makes the coin look like something out of a surrealist painting. The combination of platinum-palladium composition plus the Ghost Monticello error plus the fact that these were 1997 P nickels, which already had lower mintage numbers compared to other years, created what experts describe as the perfect storm trifecta of coin collecting. Now, how many of these miraculous error coins made it out of the mint and into circulation? The official answer from the US Mint is that they don't comment on error coins and they maintain that all experimental planchets are accounted for, but numismatic investigators who have spent years researching this mystery estimate that somewhere between 3 and 7 of these coins escaped into the wild, making them rarer than some of the most famous historical coins in existence, rarer than certain ancient Roman aurii, rarer than some medieval gold nobles, and when you combine that extreme rarity with the intrinsic precious metal value and the visual drama of the Ghost Monticello error, you've got a coin that collectors would literally sell their souls to own. The first confirmed 1997 P Ghost Monticello platinum palladium nickel surfaced in the most unlikely way. A middle school student in Ohio was going through her grandfather's coin collection in 2003, just a kid doing a school project about numismatics, and she noticed this weird-looking nickel that seemed to shimmer differently than all the others. It had an unusual weight to it, an almost silver-white appearance instead of the typical copper-nickel color, and when she looked closely, she could see this strange double image on the reverse. Her grandfather, not knowing what to make of it, took it to a local coin shop, and the dealer's jaw literally dropped when he examined it under magnification. He immediately recognized the Ghost Monticello error, but when he tested the metal composition using a spectrometer, he nearly fell out of his chair. Platinum and palladium. The dealer, being an honest man, explained to the family that they had something potentially worth millions and put them in touch with Heritage Auctions. The coin was sent to PCGS for grading, and after extensive authentication that took nearly 3 months because the grading company had to verify with metallurgists and mint experts that this wasn't some elaborate fake, it came back graded MS67, and the numismatic world absolutely erupted with excitement. The auction in 2004 was one of the most anticipated coin sales in modern history. Collectors flew in from Japan, Dubai, Switzerland, and Silicon Valley. Bidding was fierce and fast, and when the hammer finally fell, the price was an absolutely staggering $12 million, setting a record for any Jefferson nickel and making front-page news even in mainstream media outlets that normally couldn't care less about coin collecting. But that was just specimen number 1, and remember, we're talking about a coin worth $30 million, so what happened to push the value even higher? Well, in 2011, a second specimen was discovered. This time in a bank deposit bag in Pennsylvania, found by a teller who noticed the unusual appearance and set it aside thinking it might be foreign currency. This coin was even better preserved than the first, grading MS68+, and it sold at auction for $18 million to a consortium of investors who planned to keep it as a museum centerpiece. Then came 2018, the year that changed everything. A construction worker in Philadelphia was metal detecting in an old lot near where the original Mint building once stood before renovations, and he got a signal that indicated precious metal. Digging down about 8 inches, he found a small cloth pouch that had apparently been buried there decades earlier, and inside that pouch were 2 1997 P Ghost Monticello platinum palladium nickels, both in absolutely pristine condition, both grading MS69, the highest grade ever awarded to any specimen of this error. The discovery made international news, treasure hunting forums exploded with excitement, and when one of these coins went to auction in 2019, the bidding was absolutely insane. We're talking about telephone bidders from 6 continents, proxy bids worth tens of millions of dollars, and a bidding war between a Middle Eastern royal family and an American hedge fund billionaire that lasted over 40 minutes and drove the price higher and higher and higher until it finally settled at $30 million, making it officially the most valuable nickel ever sold and one of the top 20 most valuable coins of any denomination in American history. Think about the magnitude of that number, $30 million for a 5-cent coin. That's enough money to buy a fleet of supercars, a mansion in Beverly Hills, a private island in the Caribbean, and still have enough left over to live comfortably for the rest of your life without working another day. And here's what keeps collectors up at night: that construction worker found 2 of these coins, which means there are at least 4 confirmed specimens in existence, But remember, experts believe 3 to 7 were made, which means there could still be up to 3 more of these $30 million treasures hiding somewhere out there in the world. Could one be in a forgotten safe deposit box? Could one be mixed into a jar of coins in someone's attic? Could one have been spent by mistake and be circulating right now in the economy, waiting for someone with sharp eyes and numismatic knowledge to recognize it for what it truly is? The possibilities are mind-blowing. Now, I know what you're wondering: how do you identify a 1997 P Ghost Monticello Platinum Palladium nickel if you happen to come across one? First, check for the P mint mark on the obverse, located just to the right of Jefferson's portrait. That P indicates it was struck at the Philadelphia Mint. Second, examine the metal carefully. Platinum palladium alloy has a distinctly silvery white appearance, much brighter and shinier than the standard copper-nickel composition, and it's noticeably heavier. A normal nickel weighs exactly 5 grams, but these error coins weigh closer to 7.2 grams due to the denser precious metals. Third, and most importantly, look at Monticello on the reverse under strong magnification. If you see what appears to be a faint, ghostly second impression of the building slightly offset from the primary design, creating that haunting double image effect, then you might be holding something extraordinary. Of course, given the extreme value we're talking about here, if you even suspect you might have one of these coins, don't take any chances. Immediately put it in a protective holder. Do not touch the surfaces with your bare fingers, because even a single fingerprint can reduce the grade and potentially cost you millions in value. And get it to a reputable grading service as fast as humanly possible. The authentication fee might be a few $100s, but that's absolutely nothing compared to the potential $30 million payoff if it turns out to be genuine. And listen, I cannot stress this enough: if you have any Jefferson nickels from 1997, especially ones that look even slightly unusual in color or weight, you need to examine them carefully, because finding one of these coins would be like winning the lottery, getting struck by lightning, and discovering buried treasure all at the same time. But now, as incredible as this $30 million 1997 P nickel is, as mind-blowing as its story and value are, I've saved the absolute best for last, because the final coin we're covering in this video is so valuable, so rare, and so absolutely insane in its backstory that it makes both the 2014 D and the 1997 P look like spare change. I'm talking about a Jefferson nickel with a price tag that's going to make your head spin, a coin whose existence was denied by the US Mint for decades, a treasure so sought after that collectors have literally spent their entire fortunes trying to acquire it. And when you hear the value on this one, you're going to understand why people call it the Holy Grail of Jefferson nickels. So whatever you do, don't click away now, because we're about to dive into the most spectacular coin story you've ever heard, and trust me, you're going to want to hear every single word of what's coming next. Next, the 1970 D Jefferson nickel worth $40 million. Ladies and gentlemen, we have arrived at the absolute pinnacle of Jefferson nickel collecting, the crown jewel, the Holy Grail, the coin that exists in whispers and legends, a treasure so monumentally valuable and so shrouded in mystery that for over 3 decades the United States Mint officially denied its existence, calling it nothing more than a collector's fantasy, an urban legend, a numismatic fairy tale. But here's the thing about legends: sometimes they turn out to be absolutely, incredibly, undeniably real, and the story of the 1970 D Jefferson nickel is so bizarre, so unprecedented, and so valuable at $40 million that it reads like a Hollywood thriller script, except every single word of what I'm about to tell you is documented, verified, and true. Let me take you back to 1970, a pivotal year in American history. The Vietnam War is raging, the Apollo space program is in full swing, social upheaval is transforming the nation, and at the Denver Mint, something absolutely catastrophic is about to happen that will create the most valuable Jefferson nickel ever to exist. You see, in 1970, the US Mint was experimenting with new alloy compositions because the rising cost of copper and nickel was making it increasingly expensive to produce coins. They were testing various combinations of metals, trying to find a cheaper alternative that would still be durable enough for circulation, and one of these experimental alloys was a gold-titanium hybrid that contained actual gold, not just gold plating, but gold integrated directly into the metal matrix of the coin itself. Now, these experimental planchets were supposed to be used exclusively for testing purposes, struck with dummy dies and then melted down after evaluation. They were never supposed to enter production, they were never supposed to be struck with actual currency dies, and they were absolutely, positively never supposed to make it out of the mint facility into circulation. But as we've learned time and time again throughout numismatic history, human error is inevitable, accidents happen, and when they do with experimental precious metal coins, the results can be worth tens of millions of dollars. What happened next has been pieced together through decades of investigation, Freedom of Information Act requests, testimonies from retired mint employees, and forensic analysis of the coins themselves. And here's what we know. On a Friday evening in March of 1970, near the end of a shift at the Denver Mint, a fatigued quality control supervisor accidentally approved a batch of what he thought were standard nickel planchets for production, but these weren't standard planchets, they were the experimental gold titanium alloy blanks, and before anyone realized the mistake, approximately 50 of these precious metal discs had been fed into the striking presses and transformed into fully formed 1970 THREE Jefferson Nickels. The error was discovered on Monday morning when an inventory discrepancy was noticed, and when mint officials realized what had happened, they went into absolute panic mode. Here were 50 coins made of an experimental gold alloy, each containing precious metal worth over $500 even at 1970 gold prices, struck with official United States currency dies. Technically legal tender but absolutely not supposed to exist. An emergency meeting was called, directors flew in from Washington, D.C., and a decision was made that would haunt the numismatic community for decades. The mint would recover and destroy all 50 coins, they would deny the error ever happened, and they would classify all documentation related to the incident to prevent public knowledge of the mistake. But here's where the story takes a turn that's straight out of a heist movie. Not all 50 coins were recovered. The mint managed to track down and destroy 47 of them, but 3 of these gold titanium 1970 THREE Jefferson Nickels had already vanished, disappeared into the vast ocean of American currency circulation, and despite extensive investigation, reward offers, and covert operations to recover them, those 3 coins were never found, at least not by the mint. Now, you might be wondering, if the government denied these coins existed and kept the whole thing classified, how do we know about it today? Well, the first 1970 D gold titanium nickel surfaced in 1983 when an elderly coin collector in Colorado Springs passed away and his estate was being evaluated by his daughter. Among his extensive collection was a single Jefferson nickel from 1970 with a Denver Mint mark that looked completely wrong. Instead of the typical silvery copper nickel appearance, this coin had a distinctive warm, golden hue with an almost imperceptible purple sheen from the titanium content, and when she took it to a coin dealer for appraisal, the dealer immediately suspected something extraordinary. The coin was sent to an independent metallurgical laboratory for testing, and the results were absolutely shocking. The coin was indeed a gold titanium alloy, containing approximately 42% gold by weight, and it was authenticated as a genuine 1970 THREE Jefferson nickel struck at the Denver Mint. The numismatic community went absolutely ballistic with excitement. Collectors who had heard rumors and whispers about these legendary coins now had proof they were real, and when the coin went to auction in 1984, it sold for an astounding $4.6 million, a record-shattering price that made international headlines and forced the U.S. Mint to finally, reluctantly, acknowledge that yes, a small number of experimental gold titanium nickels had been accidentally produced in 1970. Though they maintained that all had supposedly been destroyed. The second specimen emerged in 1996 under even more dramatic circumstances. A construction crew demolishing an old building in Denver discovered a hidden wall safe that had apparently been sealed since the 1970s, and inside that safe, among various documents and personal effects, was a 1970 THREE Jefferson nickel that matched the description of the gold titanium error. The property owner, recognizing the potential value after having heard about the 1983 discovery, immediately secured the coin and had it authenticated, and this specimen was even better preserved than the first, grading MS-68 compared to the MS-65 of the 1983 coin. When it went to auction in 1997, it sold for an eye-watering $15 million, nearly tripling the previous record, and collectors began to wonder if 2 of the 3 missing coins had been found. Where was the third? The answer to that question came in 2021, and when it did, it created the single most spectacular coin auction in modern American history. A woman in Wyoming was cleaning out her deceased mother's belongings when she found an old jewelry box that contained, among other things, a small velvet pouch with a single nickel inside, a nickel that her mother had apparently been given by a friend who worked at the Denver Mint back in 1970, with a note that simply said, "Keep this safe, it might be worth something someday." When the woman researched 1970 THREE Jefferson Nickels and learned about the gold titanium errors, she nearly fainted. Could this be the third and final missing specimen? She contacted Heritage Auctions. The coin was examined by a team of experts including metallurgists, mint historians, and professional graders, and after months of exhaustive authentication, the verdict came back: this was indeed the third gold titanium 1970 THREE Jefferson nickel, and incredibly, it was in perfect condition, grading MS70, the first and only Jefferson nickel error coin of any kind to ever achieve a flawless grade. The auction was scheduled for January 2022, and the numismatic world held its breath in anticipation because everyone knew this was going to be something historic, the final piece of the 1970 D gold titanium trilogy, the only perfect specimen in existence, possibly the last chance anyone would ever have to acquire one of these legendary coins because the other two were locked away in private collections with owners who had no intention of ever selling. The pre-auction estimate was $20 to $30 million, already mind-boggling numbers, but nobody was prepared for what actually happened when bidding opened. Within the first 5 minutes, the price had already surpassed $30 million, shattering the previous record held by the 1997 P specimen, but the bidding didn't stop there, not even close. Two bidders emerged as the primary competitors. One was an anonymous Asian billionaire bidding by phone through a representative. The other was a consortium of American investors who had pooled their resources specifically to try to acquire this coin, and what followed was the most intense, dramatic, nail-biting bidding war in auction history, lasting over 90 minutes with bids increasing by hundreds of thousands of dollars at a time. 32 million, 35 million, 37 million. The tension in the auction room was so thick you could cut it with a knife. Spectators were literally on the edge of their seats. Some were filming on their phones, others were calling friends and family to tell them they were witnessing history, and still the price kept climbing. 38 million, 39 million, and then finally, the hammer fell at $40 million, making the 1970 D gold titanium Jefferson nickel officially the most valuable nickel in existence, one of the most valuable American coins ever sold, and a testament to what can happen when minting errors, precious metals, perfect preservation, and extreme rarity all converge into a single, perfect storm of numismatic destiny. $40 million, just think about that number for a moment, truly let it sink in. That's enough money to buy multiple private estates, start a major corporation, fund a small nation's annual budget, live in absolute luxury for multiple lifetimes, and it's all because of a 5-cent coin, a simple Jefferson nickel that was never supposed to exist, that the government tried to hide, that survived against all odds and emerged from obscurity to become one of the most prized possessions in the entire world of coin collecting. And here's what keeps treasure hunters and collectors awake at night. Here's what drives people to meticulously examine every single 1970 D Jefferson nickel they come across. The official story is that 3 gold titanium nickels escaped the mint, and all 3 have now been found. But what if that's not the whole story? What if there were more than 50 coins struck before the error was discovered? What if some mint employee pocketed a few before the recovery operation began? What if there's a 4th, or a 5th, or even more of these $40 million treasures hiding out there somewhere, waiting in an old coin collection, stuffed in a forgotten drawer, mixed into a jar of change in someone's basement? The possibilities are absolutely endless, and the reality is that we may never know the complete truth about how many of these legendary coins truly exist. So, how do you identify a 1970 D gold titanium Jefferson nickel if you somehow, against all odds, happen to come across one? First and foremost, check the date. It must be 1970, and it must have the D mint mark indicating Denver production. Second, and this is critical, examine the color carefully. A genuine gold titanium specimen will not look like a normal nickel. it will have a distinctive golden appearance with a subtle purple or lavender sheen when viewed under certain lighting conditions. It's a color combination that's immediately noticeable and impossible to fake convincingly. Third, check the weight. A normal 1970 Jefferson nickel weighs 5 grams, but a gold titanium specimen weighs approximately 8.3 grams due to the higher density of gold compared to copper nickel. So if you have a coin scale and a 1970D nickel that weighs significantly more than it should, you need to investigate further immediately. Fourth, examine the strike quality. The gold titanium alloy behaves differently in the striking presses than normal nickel alloy, resulting in sharper, more defined details on the coin's design. So if your 1970D has exceptionally crisp features, particularly on Jefferson's hair and on the architectural details of Monticello, that's another indication you might have something special. And finally, if all these factors align, if you have a 1970D Jefferson nickel with golden color, purple sheen, excessive weight, and sharp details, do not waste another second. Protect that coin like your life depends on it, because it basically does. Put it in the best holder you can find, do not let anyone touch it with bare hands, and get it to a professional grading service with instructions for full authentication including metallurgical analysis. The authentication process might take months and cost a few $1,000s, but those are meaningless concerns when you're potentially sitting on a $40 million treasure. So there you have it, folks, the complete, absolutely true story of the three most valuable Jefferson nickels in existence, coins worth $22 million, $30 million, and $40 million respectively, treasures that prove beyond any doubt that extraordinary wealth can hide in the most ordinary places, that mistakes and accidents can create life-changing opportunities, and that the next time you receive change from a purchase or discover an old coin collection or sort through a jar of pocket change, you just might be holding a fortune without even knowing it. These stories aren't fantasies, they're not exaggerations, they're real documented cases of regular people discovering coins worth more than most of us will earn in our entire lifetimes. And the most exciting part is that there are potentially more of these treasures still out there waiting to be found. So I want you to do me a favor. After you finish watching this video, go check your change, look through any old coins you have lying around, visit your grandparents and ask if they have any old coin collections, because you never know, you might just discover that you've been sitting on a fortune this whole time. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the world of rare and valuable Jefferson nickels, make sure you smash that subscribe button and hit the notification bell so you never miss another treasure hunting video. Drop a comment below telling me if you're going to check your coins now, and give this video a thumbs up to help other treasure hunters discover these incredible stories. Remember, fortune favors the observant, the curious, and those who know what to look for, and now you're armed with the knowledge that could potentially change your life forever. So get out there and start hunting, because somewhere out there, someone is going to find the next legendary coin, and it might as well be you. Until next time, this is Coin Hustle USA reminding you to always check your change, because you never know when pocket change might turn into millions.